Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of our weekly feature from Teesside Boro Backtrack. As always, in association with Teesside's best place for pizzas, Domino's. Before I introduce this week's guests, who loves a good pizza? Well, we all know we love the footy, and of course we love pizza too, and we're grateful to the support of the best place for pizza, Domino's Teesside, helping bring the two together with their support of Boro Backtrack. So this week's guests are two former Boro stars from different eras. And Boro isn't the only thing they have in common, because they also both played under one of the greatest ever Teessiders, the one and only Brian Clough at Nottingham Forest. So a big welcome first to former Boro goalkeeper Mark Crossley, a Wales international who also played more than 300 league games for Forest, many of them under Cloughie. Hi Mark, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
And also with us this week to talk Boro and Cloughie is a man who returned to Boro even more times than Janino. I'm sure he'll tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 4 times, 4 different spells, Proc. Is that right?
Not sure.
Well, a big welcome to Mark Proctor. Proc, I'm pretty sure it was 2 spells as player, another time as youth coach, and another time as with Tony Mowbray and part of his first team coaching staff.
I think you're right, Dave. Yeah, sounds about right there.
Yeah. We sacked you a few times in between all of those.
Yeah, as you do.
Now, talking of which, Proc and Cross, we're going to talk about Boro days and Cloughie, of course, but it's been a big week for the present Boro side, hasn't it? And with we finally got to see football again, and it didn't go quite to plan for Boro and for Jonathan Woodgate in particular. So, and Steve Gibson, the chairman's made a big decision and left with 8 games to go. He was obviously really concerned what he saw on Saturday, and obviously the league position now. And he's decided to move Jonathan Woodgate out of the position, though I think there's talk that he might stay at the club in some way, and bring in a very well-known face in Neil Warnock. Cros, we'll start with you. What's your views on that move?
I think obviously Steve Gibson will be worried about lack of Jonathan's experience and the position that they're in. So what do? You go for the one that's got the most experience, especially in the Championship and the results he gets in the Championship. To make sure the club stabilises and stays where it is, to move on to next level next season. But I really hope they keep Jonathan on, because like in football, you never stop learning. You can learn under different managers, whether it be a modern day manager or an old school manager. There's lots and lots of things you can still learn. And I really hope he stays at the club and learns a lot off Neil Warnock, because it'll only put him in good stead for the future. So Steve Gibson's probably looked at the performance on Saturday and probably wasn't too pleased and got a little bit worried, and Neil Warnock's available, so it looks like that's been the decision, just to steady the boat, to be honest.
An old-fashioned manager, isn't he?
Yeah, we were just speaking before, weren't we, about like old school type coaching, type management, whatever you want to call it. And you were saying you had Steve Harrison on a couple of weeks ago. I haven't actually seen it, but they're the type of people, and you've got one sitting here today with some of the players that he brought through when he was at the football club, speaks for itself. Now, I'm not saying that we're all old school and we can't put our fingers on a computer button, but what matters is when you're out on the training ground and getting the best out of the players, to get them on a pitch on a Saturday, cross that white line and get the best out of them there. And really, that is what it all boils down to, how you perform on a Saturday afternoon. So for me, massive room for old school in this game, and I'm one of them.
Proc, what about yourself? I mean, you think it'll been a tough call, because he's obviously thought this is a big plan for Jonathan Woodgate to bring some young players in, get a young coach with ambition, with his obviously Boro's running through his blood, and it's not worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Woody will be devastated himself in terms of how the season's gone. You know, he is a rookie manager. I mean, I did a year managing in Scotland, and it's really tough. So I do relate to his job. I just think, with him being a Middlesbrough lad and the background he's had as a player has been fantastic. I think he'll be really hurting, because I know him personally, of course, and I know he was just desperate for the club to be successful under him. And it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. We do look in a bit of a precarious position in the league at the moment, and I just think maybe the chairman, and I think the chairman will have found it really difficult to act as he has. He's a great guy, the chairman. He's thought, well, maybe we, like Crossley says, we need a bit of experience just to pull us through the next 8 games and just make sure we retain our position in the championship.
Because there's never, it's surely never been a worse time if you were going to get relegated now, with all the uncertainty in football right now. Surely, that's just exactly not what we could do with. It could be going to a full-blown crisis, couldn't it, if we went down?
It'll be a nightmare. I mean, to go into the, what is it? I don't know what they're calling it, the league below. Is it Coca-Cola One still, or is it?
League One.
Call it League One.
League One, yeah. I mean, for Middlesbrough, Middlesbrough shouldn't be in League One. I know we have been, and, we're all vulnerable as football clubs, but it would be a catastrophe if we did go into that league. So I'm sure the chairman's thinking, let's be safe and sure and make sure we stay in this league, and he's gone for change.
Well, I'm sure we will all keep our fingers crossed where it starts going right, starting on Saturday under Neil Warnock. So let's talk about your Boro days. Start with you, Cros, because I've been obviously looking you up and remind myself what you did and your time at the Boro. And I think you came in as understudy to Mark Schwarzer, who I think talking of another Mark, a great keeper again, but. And you probably didn't get to play the football that you wanted to, but you did get, I think it was your second season, you got a great run in the team. And I was looking it up earlier, you played 21 games that season, you conceded 16 goals, and you still got the drop when Mark Schwarzer was fit. That must have been hard to take, wasn't it?
It was. I did realise I came to the football club as a number 2 to Mark. But having the experience that I had and the amount of games I've played, I wouldn't have signed and been content and to continuously just sit on the bench for 3 years. And I got my chance. And as far as I'm concerned, I took it. And the way I was left out, obviously I wasn't very pleased. I remember leaving the training ground on the day that the team was announced, which I shouldn't have done. Should have been more respectful. But I just left the training ground because I was the team were going up the table, we were keeping clean sheets, we were winning games, we were getting points, and to be left out again, I was a bit distraught really at the time. But it made my decision that I had to leave if I had to find first team football, because whenever I've been at a club and we've had goalkeepers, I've signed goalkeepers, you don't sign them as a number 2. For me, you keep them. You have number 1s, and whoever's performing should stay in. Doesn't matter how much money they're earning, what contract they're on. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. If you're number 1, you're number 1. But I always believe that I could do well and stay in it. And
that was Steve McLaren, wasn't it? You obviously feel that he didn't really treat you fairly on that one.
I loved him as a coach and all that. I just thought it could have been explained better why. When I was actually left out on the team, Paul Barron was my goalkeeping coach, who I loved, best I've had, along with Pearsie. And he came to my house to see me and tried to explain why, but I never really got what I felt was the right answers why I was left out of the team when things were going so well. Even the crowd, I sensed the crowd that were kind of upset by it as well. I got that sense. If someone's got to get back in the team, they've got to earn it. And I've been quoted said, I think Mark was actually quite surprised that he was put straight back in as well. Although I thought he was a brilliant keeper. So
he was a great keeper, and you had a couple of decent defenders in front of you in Southgate and Ehiog, I seem to recall.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, their partnership speaks for itself, and what 2 great signings they were for the club, and they proved it at Villa, they proved it at the Boro as well. And I was asked before to think of some of my top players at Boro, and them 2 are definitely in it. Let's
come back to that in a minute. Then we'd like to hear about that. Proc, what about yourself? I mean, because I remember you breaking into the Boro side as a 17-year-old, full of running, full of goals, 9 in your first season, full head of hair as well back then as well. I don't know what happened there, but I've got the same problem.
Yeah, so I broke in 1978, 17. So I'd only been left school a year or so, which you never dream of happening. And I broke into a really good young Boro side. John Lee was the manager. And we had people like Craig Johnson and went to Liverpool, and David Hodgson went to Liverpool. David Armstrong went to Southampton. I ended up going to Forest later on. Unfortunately, the old side broke up after 2 or 3 years, when really maybe with a couple of astute signings alongside the sort of talent that we had at the time, we could have been a really big team, you know.
We lacked ambition as a club back then, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what happened, but I know. Well, I do know what happened. We got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup in my last season. We lost 2-1 to Wolves in a replay, and the home midfield was sold that summer. As I say, Craig went to Liverpool, I went to Forest, and Spike went to Southampton. And poor Bobby came in as manager, Bobby Murdoch, who I had massive respect for, because Bobby was my first professional coach. And I mean, sorry to digress, but Bobby was the first coach who showed me what to do rather than tell me. He'd put the ball and drop it over someone or through the gap, and I went, wow. So he was the first coach who showed me rather than told me. So he had a massive influence on me. And obviously then I look back on his career at Celtic and European Cup and the great Celtic side that he played in. And we got him on a free transfer, Dave.
Yeah.
What a stupid bit of business that is, you know.
Yeah. It was. You think he was given a bum deal when he became the first team coach? Then really, because I mean, unfortunately, it all went very, very wrong. He ended up in relegation, didn't it? And he got the sack earlier the next season.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether it was a cost-cutting exercise, but as I say, we all left for massive amounts of money, as it was in the 80s. We talked the 80s, you know, we must have brought in a couple of £1 million, maybe £2 to £3 million, which is a fortune then. And I just think we recruited lesser players who weren't quite as good. And the club struggled, you know. But it was hard for me because John Neal had been sacked at the end of that season that I left. And Bobby came in as manager, and I had such a relationship with Bobby. I'd already had my head turned, my contract was up. I had lots of clubs chasing me, and Clough, he had my head turned because, you know, everyone was talking about Clough. He was a bit of the Mourinho of his time, I think, Clough. And I wanted to work under Brian Clough, you know.
Yeah, so that was you, and you left. I think you came back about 8 years later, didn't you, and played under Bruce Rioch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a Boro legend, Brucey, yeah.
Oh, Bruce was brilliant. Bruce brought me back second time at 28, so I came from Sheffield Wednesday, and it was a completely new team. They were all blonde and wedges and 80s wedges. So the back four was Party blonde wedge, Pally blonde wedge, Mogger blonde wedge, and Coops blonde wedge, Colin Cooper. So, and I was the only one. I remember going in the players' lounge after the game, and I was the only one with any kids. No one had any kids. No one was married. They were really young side, you know, and obviously very talented. But I went back to try and help them a little bit. But unfortunately, we got relegated, didn't we, in the last game of the season at Sheffield Wednesday? So I just left, by the way, 6 weeks earlier. So it was ironic for me.
Wasn't a great day. And you learnt a thing or two about relegation battles, because you lost that one, and we nearly went down the following season as well, didn't we? But that fantastic way that the following season ended. If you're going to stay up, you do it with a 4-1 win over Newcastle United. Yeah,
beat Newcastle, who were going for promotion, who'd had a helicopter ready to, because the game was getting beamed back to St James's, and they were all ready for the promotion celebration. And I think Bruce put it up in the dressing room, pinned it up. All these we were written off. We were relegation fodder, and we walloped them 4. It was great there.
You got a goal that day, I think, didn't you?
No, we did.
Did you hit the post? And Bernie scored. That was it.
From a yard, did he? Sniffer
now, by the way, I bet you, here's a question for you both. you had two Boro teammates in common that were both with the club when you were both there in your spells, Pally, in your last spell, and Crossley in your spell at the Boro. Can you name the two players that you both played alongside at the Boro?
Colin Cooper.
Yes.
Colin Cooper, yeah. Pally?
And Pally, yeah.
Pally.
Yeah.
There's two great defenders we're talking about there. Two Boro legends again, yeah.
Yeah.
You won't mind them today, would you? Aye. You won't mind them two today in your team at their best. Well, probably as they are now, to be honest.
Yeah, there might be some truth in that, unfortunately, Crossley. I mean, we've got Coops on as our guest next week, actually, along with Gary Hamilton coming on,
brilliant.
who's actually not in the USA at the moment. He's back in Scotland, so we're looking forward to having a chat with that. That'll be great fun. But I mean, those two of the better defenders that you played alongside in your days, both of you. Cros, what about you?
Well, Coops. When the day I signed for the club, I'd agreed to sign for Alex McLeish at Ibs, who were going really well at the time. I'd just left Forest on a free. David Platt didn't want me there anymore, so I had to find another club. I fancied Edinburgh, went up there with the family, agreed a contract to sign for Alex McLeish at Ibs. And the day before I was going up to sign, Coops rang me, who I'd been with at Forest and had a really successful time with. And he said, have you signed for Ibs yet? And I said, no, I'm going up there tomorrow to sign. He said, Brian Robson wants to speak to you. So I spoke to Brian Robson and he said, just tell him you can't get yourself up here, have a medical, and we'll get a deal sorted out for you. And obviously I knew it was obviously closer to home. I knew that Middlesbrough were a really good team. I know I was coming as a number 2, but it just appealed. Brian Robson's the manager, you know, one of your heroes you watch play. I was at Man United for a month on loan in 1990 from Forest when Brian Robson was captain of Man United. So, and Coop said, get yourself up here. So I felt really bad because I had to ring Alex McLeish and say, I'm not coming to Ibs when I'd agreed everything. And I came to Middlesbrough. And it was Coops that actually rang me the day before to get me there.
You blamed it all on Coops, yeah?
It was his fault. I said, Alex, it's Mark Cross, the speaker. I said, Colin Cooper's just rang me. You better give him a call. He weren't very happy, Alex McLeish.
Gary Pallister, I mean, we're talking about, you played alongside him when you came back and he was about to go. I think he went to Man United, didn't he? A few months after you got back to the Borough. And I mean, obviously, the rest is history, as it says. But could you see just, you know, what his abilities and potential was at that point?
Yeah, I mean, Pally was top draw. I mean, I remember watching Pally. I don't know, I might have been at Sunderland at the time and watching him on loan at Darlington. And
yeah.
I just knew straight away he had something about him. You know, he was comfortable on the ball, bit gangly in them days. Obviously, he hasn't sort of filled out, but looks as if he had massive potential. And then obviously he became a teammate. So when I came back second time round, I realised he was an exceptional talent. He could head it, he could pull it down, he could play out from the back. Exceptional defender, a little bit laid back and lazy in terms of his training habits, as you probably agree with. But what a talent, yeah! And obviously it's backed up by him going to Manchester United for probably a record fee. Would it have been at the time, Dave?
It was a record fee for a defender at 2.3 million. Yeah, at that point. Yeah. I mean, he had at the Borough, he had the perfect man alongside him, didn't he? Because like the opposite in terms of a defensive partner, Tony Mowbray. Yeah, well, Mogger was a special player as well, a great leader. Mogger and Pally were, like Crossley said there about Hugo and Gareth, you know, formidable partnership. Nothing got past, and they complemented each other really well. Two exceptional players, Dave, you know. Yeah, brilliant days. Now, Cross, I was again when you came back in, that was the season. So Brian Robson signed you, and obviously you know, so you wanted it was almost that Robbo was the draw, and yet that was the season, of course, that it all quickly unravelled, and Steve Gibson made another of his changes, brought in Terry Venables to work. I mean, it was supposed to be alongside Brian Robson, but it felt at the time, certainly, you know, even from me, and I was at the club, of course, at the time, that really the true gaffer became Terry Venables pretty much from day one.
I think what Terry Venables did, he like kind of brought like, well, his coaching was a lot without the ball. So the club was in trouble. We were lingering down near the bottom of the league. Terry Venables, I think, came in for about 16 games or so, I think, towards the end.
There's a few more than that, I think. But
more than that, was it? And we did a lot of work on the training ground. Right, the ball's here, where we're going to go as a team. The ball's here, where we're going to go as a team. And things like that, working in shape with the ball and without the ball. And he just brought it all back to basics. And I was speaking before about managers saying certain things that stick with you. And I remember one thing that Terry Venables said to me is that when you receive a back pass as a goalkeeper, if I ever see you control it with the outside of your foot to take it across your body, I'll find you a week's wages. And just them little things that made me like think, well, I'm going to have to take that with the inside of my foot across my body. And the little things by top class people that have been in the game that stick with you. And that stuck with me with Terry Venables. But it worked. And then obviously Steve McLaren came in, and that's when I kind of like got more of a run in the team.
Don't you wonder what might have been? Because as I recall it, obviously they decided that Brian Robson's time was at an end, and there was extended talks with Terry Venables to make him the new gaffer. And
right.
And Steve McLaren was only appointed after talks with Venables broke down. I mean, do you think Venables could have really taken us on, because he sort of stabilised us in this time he had, didn't he? And then, I mean, with his reputation, really was about attacking football rather than making it stable.
It was, but he was brought in with that job to work alongside Brian and make sure that the club didn't get relegated. And yeah, I mean, Terry Venables, again, I speak to a lot of people that's worked under him, and old school, but a good manager, a good man manager. I remember asking him for time off, and his answer to me was, absolutely, you go and take 2 days off with your family for personal reasons. It says, every single day that I've been at this club, you've worked hard, so if you want 2 days off, you take them. They're the little things in managers that you've got to have to keep your players on side and things like that. And he had it in abundance, man management skills.
My main memory of him, by the way, of Terry Venables' spell was that he came in and he told me I had to sack Bernie Slaven.
Oh, did it?
Try and work that one out. If you remember, Bernie had a column in the programme at the time.
Yeah.
And he came in and he told myself and Graham Bell in the press office that what Slaven said on Saturday is bollocks with a capital X. And he isn't the right for the programme again.
Right, so Terry Venables is not Bernie's best pal then, but you got to be careful when there's legends working for the football club on how you handle things, aren't you?
It was a great line.